Welcome back to the Belt Off Podcast. So yesterday I posted a video on starting from the knees. It got so much attention because it's something a lot of places do that shouldn't. And it got me thinking about topics of and training practices that places have that don't serve the students.
Okay.
So starting
more than just starting on the knees.
Starting from the knees was just the topic that I came up with. We were making a video about other things, and I was just like, you know what? This bugs me, so I'm going to put this out there. And me and Dylan made the video on that. But yeah, there's a lot of things that places do that don't necessarily serve people. We've seen a lot of places come out and say that they skip warm-ups or that they have warm-ups like the 10th Planet style, where they have like a flow. So they have different warm-ups, but they're all like flow drills, kind of like the Instagram post that I did, where you go from one position to the next.
Right.
But they all lead to something, whether it be like a triangle or the dead orchard or something. They're purpose-driven, and you're going from one position to the next to the next.
You know what I would want to ask? If somebody brought that up, I'd say, give me an example of a warm-up that doesn't serve the students, because I don't know, I remember last time when we talked about this, I think my point was that the student is trying to say that this warm-up's no good, or that this is too much of a warm-up, or this is conditioning, I didn't pay you for this, I want Jiu Jitsu. And you're telling that black belt or whoever's running the gym, you're doing it wrong, that's silly to me. So I would like to hear the example that this person gives. Like if they walk in, they say, oh, they force us to read Moby Dick before, or something, then it's like, okay, I don't get that, right? That doesn't serve them. So what would be an example? The knee wrestling is clearly an example.
Starting for the knees, what else do we have?
We could start with that one. Starting on the knees is silly.
Yeah, it is.
Straight up. I mean, and here's what I think about that. I don't think it initially started as that. I don't think that the first time that a coach ever said, okay, start on the ground, that it was because he wanted them to grapple with both guys on their knees, like wrestling for takedowns from your knees. That's the silliest thing ever. I think it started out as what it was supposed to be, which is the coach said, look, there's not a lot of room. One guy sit on your butt, one guy start on your knees or on the feet and pass the guard, right? I think what happened was a couple of white belts said, well, I don't want to be on bottom. Well, me neither. Well, then we're both on our knees. And then they started battling, and a lot of people have the tendency to do that. And then I think, unfortunately, maybe coaches just kind of let it slide, or, every now and then I'll look over at two of beginner students and see them grappling from the knees, and I'll definitely point it out. Usually it's a good opportunity to make a joke because it's the silliest thing ever. Right? But if a school is like the black belt is straight up saying start from your knees to wrestle, and here's some moves you could do from your knees, that's dumb. That doesn't serve.
Along the lines of that, there's a story about baking a cake, and the way this lady's grandma did it was she would roll out the dough and get everything set, cut off the two ends, put it in the pan and bake it. So the daughter of the grandma did it and then passed it down to the granddaughter, and so for 3 generations they've been cutting the ends off of the bread and putting it in to bake. Well, the reason, turns out, that they were cutting the ends off is they didn't have a pan big enough for the amount of dough that they were trying to cook.
Not because it was a function.
It was just passed down and passed down and passed down. There was no purpose behind it. It was
other than to fit in the pan.
A tradition that they thought that they were keeping going, but it was just because grandma didn't have a big enough pan.
Correct way to do it.
Right.
What type of feedback did you get on the video? Was it a lot of negative? Or?
It was all good. So
on the knee wrestling one?
The title was a little clickbaity, so people made fun of the title. But as far as the starting from the knees, I saw everyone agreed, tons of likes and everything. It was definitely, because when I first started, we started from the knees in the fundamentals class, and I'd be going against big people, and I'd be like, I can't do anything from my knees. And like we were talking, if you're starting from the knees, it's like Greco-Roman, but on your knees. I can't move. I can't do anything to the bigger person. I can't maneuver or get my legs in play. I can't tie you up really. And you're going to be stronger. Whoever moves first is putting themselves off base for any sweeps or whatever. You kick the knee out, leg drag, sure, but somebody's got to go to you first.
Do you feel the gyms start from the knees to kind of like, if you're inexperienced, or to kind of ease you in from starting from the feet?
I think
That's what I got from it.
I think that might be part of it. I think the biggest reason is what you were saying is gyms start from the knees because there's a lack of space.
Okay.
Yeah.
The biggest injuries that you see in jiu-jitsu are also from takedowns. So starting a beginner class from the ground kind of makes sense, but one person can
that's
sit.
what I got
Well,
from it.
one person needs to sit. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the. And that's the thing is like I don't think there's any gyms, and if there are, that's silly, right? But I don't think there's too many gyms where the coach says both people start on your knees and battle for a takedown.
Yeah.
I think when the coach says, "Okay, start on your knees," and they walk away
Yeah.
and start the clock. They don't. They think that everybody knows. Okay, one guy's sitting on their butt, one guy's on top.
yeah.
I think they know.
That makes sense.
And if the coaches are like specifically saying, no, I don't want you on your butt. Both of you should be on your knees, and you should be wrestling for a takedown. Yeah, that would be. Like,
That was the impression
why?
that I got when I first started, and I was always struggling from that position, and they would just sit there, so I'd always be the first to go, and so I was always bottom side control or wherever I got twisted into, and I would ask, what can I do from here? And they would always just say, like, just start, and these were like purple belts that I was asking, and nobody told me, oh, just sit to your butt, and they weren't sitting to their butt either, so
which is the silly part, because if I were to ever go with a lower belt, and they were on there, I just you gotta just give up the position, right?
And if you do have a lack of space, you can always do, okay, one person establishes grips, foot on the hip, pull guard, or pull open guard, right? So the one leg, two grips, start from there.
Lack of space, like you said in the video, like start inside, bottom side or something.
There you go.
Like,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
make it a positional start and close guard,
Yep.
or whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think the starting from the knees is just kind of a lazy.
What's another thing though that a gym would do that wouldn't serve them?
I don't know, that's a good
Because
question.
I feel like, with the exception of that clear one, like a lot of them are debatable, right? Like if somebody does make the argument of like, oh man, I had to warm up for 30 minutes. I was warmed up after 5. That's dumb. That didn't serve me.
Right.
I would just go and say, well, you don't know, man. That black belt's got a plan for you. Just
Right.
like train for 5, 6, 7 years and tell me you're not better because of his plan, right? So you don't get to
Like it
decide.
did nothing for you.
Yeah, how do you know, right? I mean, so unless it's
Guaranteed it did
debatable.
something.
There are a lot of things that pop up on the forums and stuff. Some people say that you should never practice like front rolls and back rolls, and you should turn it into a drill rather than a warm up. There's ones that
You should never practice front rolls and back rolls.
right. No,
I mean, why not? I mean, I could see a person saying, like, honestly, coach, how often do you front roll or back roll in a match? And it's not necessarily that you do the full motion of a front roll or a back roll,
Somebody's
but it's your
sweeping.
body, it's the body motion. Yeah, it's the knowing how to go with the sweep. I mean, ironically enough, like I have a guy, he's the only guy that does this, but you know the collar drag from the feet. It's a very effective move. Now, this one guy, for some reason, just thinks to front roll every time I do it to him. And he just does a full-fledged, like a warm-up front somersault every time I collar drag him, and it works. I don't get the collar drag on him.
interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing actually, and I always laugh because I'm like, well, that seemed a little bit much, but really I'm thinking, dang,
Perfect.
that worked. But again, there's not a lot of situations where you use a front roll, but still, dude, like imagine you're a beginner in martial arts, like the kids' classes or even a white belt adult, and you haven't done a lot of stuff. You're not an ex-gymnast or an ex-wrestler or something, so you don't know your body that well, but you think you do. Yeah, I mean, how often have you seen somebody just learning a shrimp and just absolutely look like they're spasming and seizuring? It's like, no, relax and
My
shrimp.
head goes down and my hips go backwards.
it's
What
like,
are you talking
that's
about?
two things at once, right? So yeah, learning how to do those motions, front rolls and back rolls are important.
Yeah. No, I agree. Another one was cartwheels. Cartwheel pass is legit.
Cartwheel pass is legit, and again,
I've
just
never
the
seen
motion
that.
is
I
another
like
way
it.
to know your body,
Yeah.
know your balance, all that stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily incorporate cartwheels into my warm up or anything.
Yeah.
Unless it's cartwheel pass day,
Yeah.
right? If I'm showing, and I have done that before, I've showed the kids cartwheel pass or whatever, and then I'll just be like, okay, we're doing some cartwheels in the warm up.
And you don't even need a good cartwheel for the cartwheel pass.
Well, that's what I tell them.
It's kind of like a shitty cartwheel when you're doing
that's
it right.
exactly what I tell the kids, because I always get some kids look at me like, come on, I don't do cartwheels. And I'm like, watch this cartwheel, and I'll do a trash one on purpose. And I'll be like, that's all I need to be able to do this pass. I don't need to do a perfect toes pointed, Yeah.
So it might not seem optimal while you're doing it, like the front rolls, back rolls. If you're going into your first jiu-jitsu class and they're making you do front rolls and you're like, why the heck am I doing front rolls? It's usually because there's a purpose or something coming up. But I do understand instead of doing...
It's silly. I'm sorry to interrupt you, bro. But the reason why it's silly to me is because take 15 seconds and do 3 front rolls up the mat, bro. What are you complaining about, man? You're acting like the coach is taking 15 minutes of the class to have you front roll and back roll. It's part of a warm-up that literally, in and of itself, the front roll section takes seconds, dude. Just roll.
Right.
If you're complaining because you can't do it, then learn how to do it. But like, just do what they say, man. Right? I don't know.
And part of the reason that this topic is coming up is I've seen some high-level jiu-jitsu people, black belts and influencers on YouTube. And I don't know if it's just trying to get the views or what, but they say things like, if you're doing, front rolls or cartwheels in your warm-up, your gym is trash.
That's just clickbait. Like, that's no different than saying quit if you're gonna do knee wrestling, right?
Yeah.
That's just clickbait.
But then,
your gym is trash because you did a cartwheel. Okay.
In the video that I go into, I actually explain it, but a lot of times they actually... In the video, it looks like they believe this stuff.
I mean, they're probably passionate about having like their warm up because you gotta understand, man.
Yeah.
I feel like the best way to get to the school to pick my kids up is a certain route, and my wife likes the other route.
Right.
I'm right.
Right.
No, I'm not. She's right. No, she's not. Who's right, bro? Then I take the same amount of time, and it's like I feel like they just think their warm up works really well. And why do they think that? Well, because they got some studs on their team, and they're really good too, and that's what they've done. So their argument is, do this. I'm the proof it works, and they are right.
Yeah.
They are the proof that does work. And somebody else's team is the proof that doing some cartwheels is okay.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you go into like AOJ, you see them do a cartwheel. Do you change your whole mind about cartwheels? All of a sudden, now we should all do them? Stupid. Right? Just warm up your body, bro.
There's been things in like kickboxing and everything that I've found, I'm like, that wouldn't work. And then, when you get a little more dexterity in your hips or whatever, you're like, oh man, that actually does work really well. It's not something you see a lot. Things like the hook kicks and everything, you see them a lot in Taekwondo, but not so much like Muay Thai. But it's an effective kick. And these things pop up over time as you become a little more established in your body. Certain things start to work. You might first see a move and be like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. And then, 2 years down the line, after practicing all these different things so many times, it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I know how to move my body in this fashion now. We got tangled up in some weirdness in our last roll. And it wasn't because I've ever practiced that, but all those little pieces that I was trying to do were all pieces that I've been working on, and they just seemed to like stack on stack on stack on stack. And then we got caught in this puzzle. It's like, okay, well now how do I make leverage to get something to finish?
Or how does he make it? I couldn't make any leverage to pass, so it was really perfect. Really, it tied everything up. It kept it 0-0. It did kind of what we were talking about.
It was like off the lasso, and then I had
with a lapel grip lasso too. You had and the foot was on my chest. It wasn't like a regular lasso. It was cool. It was cool. But you're never gonna drill that.
I'll probably never be in that again.
Right, or you might. And that's what's cool because I think you will be in that again, bro. Because I think you will think to keep your collar grip and then throw the lasso leg over again. Because
I had a lasso with the left arm, and then on the right one I had like an omoplata go-go.
Because I was facing you, so it was more go-go, right? And everything was stuck, and you could have capitalized. I know you could have with more time. That was like a 2-minute round.
I was attempting to get I was trying to get the go-go to turn in, and then if that wasn't going to work, I was trying to get more of like an Americana.
And you just need more time to play with the position. So I would suggest you do that again. You might as well try to.
It was fun.
Right? It's because all those cool positions started out with somebody just rolling, man. It wasn't what came first, the instructional or the match that it happened in. Obviously, the match that it happened in, and then they made the instruction, right? So keep coming up with cool grips to slow everything down, and absolutely.
And that's another thing is when. It's great about jiu-jitsu. I've had other hobbies in my life, and you get proficient at them, and you're like, that was fun. But you move on because the thrill is kind of gone. With jiu-jitsu, that never goes away. Like that position has got my brain like going crazy because
kind of freshly, like newly.
And I've been doing this almost 10 years, and like I was like, another cool thing to look at. I've really been on the lasso. And so whenever you get like stalled out and stale in something, find something that piques your interest.
You can re-spark it pretty easily.
You can,
man.
because there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
There's not enough life to figure out all of jiu-jitsu.
No way, but that's the cool part about
It
it.
is. It's super awesome.
You really don't have to get bored with it, right? And then go back to like those moves too. That like, because I think right before you said about that our sparring match, like that we were talking about the moves that you learn that you don't think you'll ever use or be able to do, and it's like go back to those too. Right, like if you get bored with something, like, because I know for a fact it's so common, right? If you're a newer guy and you get shown something that the first time you ever do it in class, you're thinking, this is silly, I would never do this. Even if you're able to do it, right? Maybe it's a move that you're not flexible enough to do, and then eventually you can. Or maybe it's a situation where you can totally do it, but you just don't get why you'd ever do it, right? Like you're blue belt, right? So how often in class do you get shown something and you're like, and you don't say it because it's disrespectful, right? But you're thinking, I don't think I'd ever use this or do this.
Or it seems legit, and then I'm like, I can never pull this off in a real match.
Yeah, well, maybe that's like a little bit different category. If you know a move is good, but you're just having a hard time with it. But like I'm talking about, like maybe it's my own like thinking I know a lot. Like, but when I was a beginner, I'd get shown like a half guard position or something, and I'd be thinking in my head, I will never do this. This is silly. I would just do this instead, right? And then it takes a couple of years to like understand. You know, like, okay, no, that was exactly how I need to do it, and I would be an idiot to do it the other way, you know? It's just like, I don't know, it's a beginner's thing, but I think it probably comes with entering the sport with a little bit of, like, background to where you think you're already coming in with knowledge, right? If you come in humble, maybe you came in humble, right, into jiu-jitsu, where you're like, I'm not a wrestler, I don't know more than you, right? So I think I had that problem of coming in with some knowledge of grappling, so I kind of, in a way, thought, well, there's some things I know maybe that you don't know, right? And it took me a while to get past that, right? To stop like adjusting a move. Like my coach would say, grab here. And in my white belt head, I'm thinking, I think this would be a better place to grab because I'm stronger or whatever, right? And I would do it in the sparring. I'd try and adjust the move, and I'd get called out on it and be like, that's not where you grab, dude. You grab up there. You know, but I'd be trying to force it to work my strong way.
It feels so right at the time.
It does.
It feels so right at the time.
Yeah, but once you get past that, like, man, that's huge. But you can go back to that. You get bored in jiu-jitsu, like I'll do that sometimes. I'll go back to some basic move, and I'll probably be reminded of it because I had to teach it to the kids or something. And I'll make myself do that some simple move that I've never really got good at, cross collar chokes or something. You know, and it relights the spark, the fire. You make one work, you know, you get a new setup. You're like,
When you reinstall techniques that you used before, they're there too. You're fairly proficient at them, and then a lot of times when you stack that on top of your current game, it opens up a whole new path. And so you can take these techniques that you've built along the way and be like, oh well, that's not really working for me anymore, but maybe you've developed a whole new game. And now you can start putting those back pieces and be like, oh, this does flow into the things that I was working, but you just didn't make that connection yet.
Right.
But there are things, you know, getting higher into jiu-jitsu, there's moves that I'll see and be like, that is directly in my game. That is going in day one right now. We are installing that into it. And there's other ones where are like, it's not really what I'm working right now. It's very specific, right? So if it's like berimbolo stuff, but I'm working lasso, they kind of go, but it's in a different area.
Yeah, they don't go. Lasso and berimbolo.
But they're in different areas, so you'll go through the technique and everything, you'll learn that in the class, but it's not something that you're going to apply immediately. And they're, you know, a year down the road, I might be all into berimbolo.
You probably will. You know, everybody goes through a bolo phase. Everybody goes through a bolo phase, man.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden now you're starting to complete a more rounded game, because not only can you switch from this to this, you can go back and forth. Yeah. But you do kind of have to focus on one area and start picking techniques that fit to that.
100%. Yeah.
Because if you're all over the place, and I feel like this is what I've done, and it's really held me back, is I've tried to explore like everything, which is really what you do at like white blue belt, and I've just continued on that and tried to get proficient at most things. Spread myself too thin, and ever since, you know, you're like, go lasso,
Yeah, focus.
Lasso. I've been doing like nothing but lasso and sweeps from open guard.
You should absolutely get really good at
It's been fun to play with.
category,
We were talking about sparks. It's really sparked my interest, this
Yeah, me
lasso
too,
game.
man.
There's so many different areas to go through and the entanglements and just eliminate. It's like tying somebody up. It's amazing. It's fun.
It's very important to hyper focus on something and get super good at it and make it what your game is. And then you'll find that because all jiu-jitsu positions and techniques connect to another, all of them. Yeah. There's a spider web, and the farthest one that's way over here connects to the farthest one way over there through a bunch of other ones, right? So what you do is you get so freaking good at one that everything that transitions off of it, you start to naturally get really good at too.
You see
and
it.
over time, 10 years, 15 years, you end up being really well-rounded. And meanwhile, you've always still been drilling that double leg stuff too that you don't, so you've been getting better at that too. You know, I know guys that have no wrestling background at all or judo background that just because they have never stopped drilling the doubles on the side and they are a black belt now, they actually have a damn good double, right? They just don't use it too often, but every now and then they pull it out and you're like, did you wrestle? I'm like, no, I've just been training for 15 years, but I'm really good at what I've been focusing on, the guard or whatever, right? So definitely do that, man. Like
You made me do the lasso or told me to get into the lasso, and that opened up that whole bicep series that I made.
Totally, that slice, all that's gonna that comes off of it, and then something's gonna come off of it the other direction, and something's gonna come off the slicer.
Once everyone realizes I'm going for the slicers, things on the other side are gonna start opening up because they're gonna defend those slicers better.
For sure, and the truth about the slicer is it's kind of a stuck one. Like you can defend it early, but you can't escape those very well. Even if you can manage to withstand the pain and find an angle that's not going to damage your arm or anything, you're stuck, bro. So you better defend it early, right?
It's really funny on big guys because I'll get my entire body latched onto that one arm and I'm like a koala just on one arm. Like they can stand up, they can do whatever, but I am latched.
That's good. Yeah, all those techniques that stem off of your home base, whatever you make your home base, you're gonna get real good at, man.
And that's the home base. I like that because that is really what I've made that lasso is that's home base. Get to the home base. So find a home base out there if you don't have one.
So Dylan, you are only a blue belt, but what is your home base, bro? That's like a quiz question you could ask your students. What's your home base? They'd be like,
It'd be like pulling guard.
Yeah, so you pull what guard though? So you want to get, because when you pull guard, bro, I love a full guard too. I would consider that my home base, but I'll admit, sometimes I got to work kind of hard to get to my home base, right? Like guys will combat up and stuff. So I've found that while that's my goal home base, full guard, I've got a few, like a De La Hiva is probably my more often position because guys are real good at blocking that full guard closure with the combat knee, right? So I'll end up De La Hiva-ing that or something, and that is truly probably my home base, that De La Hiva, foot on the hip, sleeve grip, and then grabbing the back of the pants, right? Like I like that spot to hang out in. But yeah, like full guard should be probably a good blue belt goal home base, right? But yeah, as the guys defend it, find another spot to latch onto. Probably De La Hiva.
That's what I found was I like full guard. I like working the cross collar armbar combos. But exactly what you said, getting full guard is tough. And so with that lasso, you don't necessarily need it. You just need feet on the hips, and that's much more achievable than full guard.
Yeah, and it's very effective, right? So that's what. So yeah, I would give for Dylan's advice. I would say to pull guard, trying to get your close guard. If you don't get it, you kind of expected that, and you land with a strong push and pull, right? Because that's kind of
That's
like
what I've been going for lately is like the leg up on the
foot
hip
up and grips, right? Yeah, you have to have both, right? And whether that push and pull comes from your feet on their body and your grips on their lapel, or your grips on their sleeve and your shin on their body, or whatever, like there has to be a push and a pull, and that's literally how you lock a person in, right? And then obviously they're trying to get that push off of their body, right? Or get one of those pulls off, break the grips. Okay, so that's the top guy's goal. But yeah, that should be like your home base. Find a push-pull spot.
I think that's why
Definitely.
I think that's why I've gotten so good with the lasso so quickly is because that concept, right? I don't have to necessarily have a bunch of techniques. I just know that I have to maintain a push and a pull on the limbs and stagger to keep you off base,
Yeah.
or tie it up. Off base, tie it up, but you have to keep that tension going.
Yeah.
And if one thing pops off, I need to find a limb to replace it. One
Yeah.
thing pops off, I need to find a limb to replace it. So I don't necessarily need like to study a bunch of different techniques in order to figure that out.
No, find every way you can to get to your lasso. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Make sure from every spot I'm able to find a lasso, right? And once you're getting good at getting to your home base, dude, that's home. You're so comfortable there that all the techniques that come off of it, you're gonna discover them more likely than you're gonna watch a YouTube video to figure one out.
Right.
Like you'll be in the position, and you'll be like, I think I could dump them right over that way.
Yeah.
If I just hold their sleeve right there. Yep. Boom. Right?
Yeah.
You'll see it. Because the concept of sweeps is simple physics. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard guys like, I think it's Kit Dale is the guy that promotes pure sparring and Dale. Pure sparring, no drilling, right?
I
He's
saw
got
that
a point.
recently. I
His
saw that
point,
recently.
if you're able to learn, he's a smart dude, obviously, by saying that. You know he's smart because his point is that, dude, it's physics, it's basic physics. I'm gonna figure out the moves to do, you know. And he's right. I've done that plenty of times where I've been in a position that, like you said, I'll never drill this spot. Look at this weird spot we're in. But I'll
done that
look
as
at
well.
the physics.
Yeah.
I'll ask myself what's keeping him from falling forward.
And
that
that's-
foot, right? Then pop, you know, and then you make it up.
And that's happening 10 years in. Like, so
Yeah.
it's not something that's just gonna go away.
No,
Right?
no, that's
So
the
this
way.
dude does no drilling at all?
Yeah.
Kid Dill, yeah, I think it's him. I hope I'm not confusing him. I do that a lot. But if I'm right, it's the guy that promotes no drilling, pure sparring. He says drilling is a waste. He would argue that's a disservice to
Yep,
the student.
yep.
So
right?
even as a
I
new guy
saw-
just walking
Even as a
in,
new guy, he says go
just
spar,
fucking
right?
spar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some basic stuff he tells them, like while they're sparring, hey, don't hug them right there, push them away, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I saw a video on this. Yeah, so he teaches like concepts, but yeah, he puts them in a position and he says, get to that position. And
Get to that position.
that's the drill, right? If you're starting in full guard, get to side control. That's the warm up. That's the drill. And okay, now that everyone's figured out a way to get past the legs into side control, now get to mount. And so instead of like showing a technique a bunch of times and repping it, it's like, no, they're going to notice when the knee pops up. They're going to notice they have to get past the knee. Okay, what can we do to
all
block
by
the knee?
feeling.
That's interesting. I never saw the video. I've only heard of this, right? So if that's the video, I would wonder, like, because I could see many scenarios where they don't find a way to side control, right? They don't know what they're doing. They start in the closed guard, and then they never find a way to side control.
The video didn't go into a ton of detail, but what I would imagine he's doing is he has smaller class sizes and he's going around and he goes, okay, grab the knee, stiff arm that out, or walking around
Now
and
I'm
giving little tips.
I'm curious, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, but so there is some teaching involved.
Yeah, there would
There is
have
some
to be,
teaching.
I
There
feel
would
like.
have
Yeah.
to be, I
Yeah,
feel,
yeah.
because you can't just leave. Because if that's the case, then everybody could just grab a buddy, go in the garage,
Yeah.
and get really, really good, like Kid Dale
Agreed.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and maybe he's one of those freaks that could do that. He probably is. And that's the thing, man. Whenever you hear people talking about a method, like their method, their theory on something, it's a weird scenario where I never really feel like they're wrong because they are their own proof. The proof is in the pudding. They're the pudding. They're showing you, look, I'm good. This is how I did it. So that right there is the proof they're right. But does it apply to everybody? Is there some blanket, general rule where everybody should do it because it worked for me? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it falls into the category of like diets where maybe vegan is great for you, but this guy will have no energy at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
maybe
that's how I am, right? Like,
maybe
differently, like-
fruitarian is good for you, but this guy needs the carnivore diet.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's
and
individual.
I'll preach macros all day because it's worked for me,
Yeah,
but-
because it's worked for you, and I'll bet you there's a lot of people like you. So that's why they preach it, right?
Yeah.
Like if you are on your channel telling them what's working for your diet,
Yes.
that's good that you are. It's just that when you start to get to that place of saying, and if you're doing it a different way, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
well, what if it's working for them? What if they got proof in their results?
Exactly.
Unless it's starting from your knees. Don't start from your That's the one that universally we're all agreeing on. Those
Yeah,
theories.
macros or whatever, but
Everyone does have a different style of learning. And
Totally.
And it also goes into when you have like a professional athlete that's done something and competed and been amazing, that doesn't mean they're going to be a great teacher.
100%.
I've had things, and I find myself, I take myself as like a good teacher, and I'm passionate about it, and I like doing it. I'll have techniques that I've done, but I haven't taught, and I'm like, oh, now I need to figure out how to actually teach this, because there's moves that I've been taught. It's like, okay, now I have a base of how to teach that, and you adjust it for each individual person. But there's also things that I've done that I haven't necessarily been taught, and it's like, okay, now I'm trying to teach it. I need to figure out how to actually teach that and explain this so that this person and this person can both understand it, but they may have completely different ways of understanding it, different prerequisites of what they're good at and what they've done before. Maybe they've never done,
how they perceive it,
maybe they've never inverted or done things kind of like what we were doing today. We did that pass, and I went into a knee slide off of it. I tripoded and knee slid through rather than falling into like a half guard or guard. And Dylan was like, what are you doing there? Because you're knee sliding right through it. But it was just an arm drag across, and then, I was tripoding and sliding the knee across, because that was one of the things that Jack has taught. And so it's just.
And I kept ending up in half guard every time.
Yeah. You were landing in half guard, and I was going knee slide. And I think you've taught something through.
Check it out. You're not just dealing with different people either, with different, what were you saying? They had different perception of the move, different whatever. You're dealing with different IQs, bro. You're dealing with different physical abilities, okay? And that's why it's so hard to be a teacher. You might figure out a way to teach a move that works for the most part. And then you'll get whoever who's just
doesn't get it,
man. And so you need to be
how
able
to teach it all over again.
Dude, honestly.
I have 6 ways to teach a basic round kick. Because
you need 6 ways, dude, because you're going to have a lot of different, not just levels, right, in your room, or white belt to blue belt, but like each white belt is a different level of the white belt. And
some people, it's like, okay, 3 steps, and they know how to move their body through the motion. Other people, you got to break that thing into 10 different pieces in order for them to grasp what's happening. And with some moves, they might not understand the physics of it and the leverage points of it until they've learned 6 months of something else. And then you come back to it, and then they flow right through it.
Yep, absolutely, man. I mean, it kind of depends on when you start. I get guys that will have their first day when we're doing something, and I'll be like, dang, you should have been here 2 weeks ago to really get this, dude. So you can learn this today, but I don't expect you to really understand this till we come back to what we did last week, bro.
We spend a lot of time on guard passing and that sort of thing, but we have a guy who just started. He's got like 3 classes, and he ended up in full guard. And like, what do I do? Well, we'll get back to it, but he's only seen like open guard stuff.
Right.
Because he's only got 3 classes in.
And you guys are doing open guard passing.
Yeah,
right? So he's stuck on his knees.
It was a passing guard. Closed guard is one of the first things you learn usually, and we'll get back to it, but you got to start stacking some classes.
I mean, it's funny because one of the first thing you learn usually is a phrase that's funny because, like I just said, you might start at any given point in our curriculum. So maybe I think there's probably some gyms where if you sign up, you start at the beginning of the curriculum somehow, and then maybe there's some intro classes that you have to do, some orientative classes that orientate you up to where we're at least because to me, like, you honestly might sign up at my gym, and if your first class is with Brett, you're learning like crucifix, weird crucifix stuff, and you just learned a hip escape in the warm-up, and now you're doing crucifix. And because we're not going to change up the whole routine for you. What I will do is I'll look around the room a lot of the time in my class, and if I see a majority of white belts, I'll go to something super fundamental. I might change what we were teaching, given the group, right? Because it's never going to be, like, it would be more harmful, in my opinion, for a brand new white belt to have to do De La Riva X guard stuff than it would be for that brown belt to have to drill some fundamental arm bars. Eat your veggies, bro. That's okay. Drill some more fundamental arm bars, and let this guy, we could all drill the same thing, right? But you might start in my class, and who knows what you'll be learning on your first day. It would be cool to have orientative classes, bro. I've thought about that before, having, especially in the kids, not so much in the adults, but in the kids program, I've thought about, when a kid signs up, make them watch a class if they like what they see, then allow them to go to a class, but make it be an orientation class. It's not the one they watched per se, but like a class with like 4 other kids that were also interested in signing up, and then like be like, okay, next Wednesday we're going to have a class where I'm going to at least try to catch you up somewhat to where we're at. Because that is a problem. You get a brand new kid, never done jiu-jitsu, comes to the sparring section. My routine is to have them do something positionals, a mount escape positional, where I put the kid on top and I say, look, your goal is just to keep him pinned. Don't let him get out of there, right? Something simple enough for them to do. But it would be awesome to have them do just a separate class, get them caught up so they could jump right into sparring and everything, man.
With smaller classes, you can almost break them off into a couple different categories. Yesterday we had a pretty small kids class, but we had 2 like really littles, and then 2 of the bigger kids, because it's kind of a mixed class. And yeah, that was exactly what I did. We were working like an open guard sweep, and then the littles, it was like, okay, just pass guard. We're just, put your hand here, push down here, knees slide across, and we're just gonna do this over and over and over for this group. And this group is gonna have some fun doing some inverted stuff and launching. But these kids and it wasn't even like drilling. It was just kind of like sparring. It was like, okay, pass guard.
Resistance drilling.
It's like 5-year-olds, right? Yep.
Positionals.
Yep. Close your guard. Hold your guard close. Try to pull them in. Okay. What are you trying to do? Post off. Get your head up. Pass the legs. You
can simplify it. Make it so simple.
Yeah. And so they were going back and forth, and they got great guard passing technique in, and they spent 25 minutes just passing each other's guard and giggling and having fun, and the other ones were doing the more advanced techniques. And because I was starting to show, and I was like, nope, we're just gonna stick super simple right here, a little more advanced.
If you're working with just a couple groups, maybe if you're lucky and you get like 2.
It's when classes get big.
It's when they're big, you can't do it. Yeah, it's when they're big that you kind of have to have everybody on the same page. So.
It's great to have giant classes because you get so much experience with different body types and people. But there is another thing for those little classes. You get that intimate hands-on attention.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why private lessons are expensive. And it's because you get really good attention. Right? Little classes are just bad for business. That's all. We need big classes. 100%, man. You don't want little classes. Well, you had a few topics, didn't you?
The next one is, and we can cut and go through or whatever, we might keep going, is tournaments. When should somebody compete? Or who should compete? What competition should they go into?
Whenever, whoever, whatever. So it's fun. I had a guy come up to me once, white belt, first probably week. Juan, his name Juanito, we call him, he's the man. And this was back in like 2014 or whenever he was a white belt. But he comes up to me his first week and says, hey coach, what do I gotta do to compete? And I told him, you gotta have balls. Because that's the truth, man. And he was like, oh, like he lit up. He's like, I got those. Let's go. Let's go. And that guy ended up doing like a sub-only tournament where he had 2 1-hour-long matches. And he won both of them. And the dude's got the biggest heart on the planet. I mean, I could tell a story that's unrelated about that guy in that tournament real quick, where he watched his training partner who smokes him, Dan. Dan beats up Juanito in training. Okay, Juan watched Dan get smoked by a guy. You know you got to fight that guy next. Normal people are like, shit, that guy beats my ass, and he just whooped him. Dang. Not Juan. You know, Juan did. Juan said, I don't like how that motherfucker celebrated. That guy celebrated too much. I'm going to fuck him up. And I remember looking at Juan like thinking, that ain't normal. Because I know what Dan does to you in training. And Juan went out there and beat that dude's ass, bro. Juan's different. He's different, man. But like, to answer your question, whoever, whenever, whatever, because you do just need balls. And as the coach, it's our job to make sure they understand what they're getting into. Because I had a little kid once come up to me, and I've had this multiple times, not just once, where the parent will say, hey, you know, so-and-so wants to do a tournament. And I'll know who so-and-so is, and I'll know that so-and-so thinks they're going to go play ninja bowling at that tournament. That's not how, you know, so-and-so has no idea. So no, I think so-and-so should wait, because it's not just a sumo match that you're giggling with your friend. You're going to go up against a kid who wants to make you cry. And they do, and that's not, and I'm dead serious, because believe it or not, the competition is no different than any competition, man. Like, you get really into it, even though they're just 8. And if it's your kid out there who's 8 and they're going up against another kid and you can see that parent over there that's like, get him, and you're like, you know, you get into it too. Like, it's serious. It gets serious, whether it should be or not, whatever. There's a lot of arguments about, like, silly parents at kids tournaments, right? But nevertheless, like, your kid's fighting. And I know for a fact I've had kids get a lot of joy when they realize that they beat that kid so bad he cried when they walked off the mat. Okay? Good or bad, it's a competitive fire. You were fighting. If a kid wins a fight and sees the other kids like, you know, they're like, you know? And some of these kids might not be ready for that experience. So if that kid asks me, I'm going to tell him. You know, you don't understand what you're getting into. But for the most part, if an adult comes up to me and says, hey, man, I want to do a tournament, that's all it takes. You want to do one, go do one. Right? You might experience a whooping. Are you cool with that? Are you cool with that? Yeah, I'm cool with that. All right, then let's go. That's all it takes.
As a coach, you know, sitting in the chair and everything, I see some of these guys compete. I'm like, oh, I want in. I want revenge. Put me in. But, you know, that doesn't work. But, yeah, I typically tell if the kids are inspired to do it and they're fired up about it, fantastic. Let's get you to the point where you can recognize when you're in danger, when you need to tap, what a Kimura is, what all these things are. You know, get 5 months, 6 months in, and then we'll start talking about competitions, because then you can start figuring out, okay, am I locked up on something, what things feel like. Because a kid who just starts, they don't know what a cross-collar choke feels like until they've been in one. They don't know what a Kimura feels like and when they should tap until they've been in one. So once we've established the fact that they know the intensity and they know the positions that they can get hurt in, then, all right, for me, that's when it's a green light to go in. Same thing with the adults. You know, adults can go in after a month as long as they know when to tap, right? What's going to hurt them, what's not going to hurt them, and some basic understanding of the points and how to win. Because some people are like, I want to compete.
The bare minimum. Just know when to tap.
Yeah.
Just don't let them break your arm.
Right. Yeah. Don't get injured. Don't get injured. We want you strong. But yeah, everyone should compete. I think it's pretty awesome to compete. Well, maybe not everyone, but
if you want to, man. I mean, I know Meg thinks it should be required in gyms that you compete. Megaton is very heavy into competition, but he's also leads by example. So the guy competes everything.
I think everyone should do one.
I mean,
even for self-defense purposes.
Yeah.
The adrenaline and everything that you feel and the emotions and what everyone doesn't expect is the first match, how exhausted they are after it.
Right. The adrenaline dump is off the charts, man.
It really is. And then they go, oh man, I got match number 2, match number 3.
Right.
Which competition, right? So IBJJF does single eliminations. Are they starting to do round robin? I saw something that
they've always done round robin if there's only 3.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's only 3 guys in the division, you'll do round robin. And if there's any other number other than 3, it's a regular tournament, single elimination.
I think I saw something that they were going to start opening that, but I'm not sure.
Like having round robin tournaments? No, they wouldn't, because like if 13 guys enter the tournament, like that means each guy gets 12 matches. The IBJJF wouldn't do that and take all damn day.
Grappling Industries, they do. They break it up into like 4-man groups, and then they have a round robin in between each of those 4-man groups, and then they do an elimination bracket.
You get a lot of matches in this tournament. You do. If your goal is like mat time.
So my first couple competitions, I lost first round as a white belt, and they were IBJJF, so it was like, you go, you lose, you're done. It's like, wait. And if you got submitted, you're not even real quick, you're not even exhausted yet. So I like the way that Grappling Industries does that, because you can choose if you do 2, 3, 4 matches. If you're still got the energy to go, you can get some, if you have 4 matches, that's 4 competitions worth of IBJJF.
If you're losing every time.
Even if you lose, though, at least you feel like you got your money's worth.
Right. If you get 4 matches, go 0-4. You definitely got mat time, bro.
For the amount of times, because for me, whenever I'm entering a new area, I'm always like, traveling everything. If I'm taking a flight, man, I'm like scouting out the area. I'm finding where the maps and things are, where the time clock is. For me, like that's the biggest energy And so when I go into these competitions, if it's not organized, man, I am a mess. And that was one of the things that I found with the IBJJF is they have the board and everything that you have to go check, and the times are all over the place. I don't know if it's me or everyone, but when they're announcing names over the loudspeaker, I can't hear anything.
They got the mic like touching their lips, like yeah.
I can't hear anything. So I'm constantly checking the board. The great thing about grappling industries is they have it all on your phone. It's updated real time. And so you can be like, oh yeah, I got 3 minutes. And then...
Man, the IBJJF hasn't done that yet?
I guess...
They might have. When's the last time you did one of those?
It's been a while.
Okay, they might have updated that, bro.
But yeah, and then how many times I can step on the mat when I'm first learning to get something, right? So taking away that unknown and stepping on the mat, even if I'm going out there and losing, the amount of times that I've stepped on the mat and gone through that process in one tournament, it's like, okay, whew, I got that. Okay, next one, okay, I got that. And then after doing a bunch of grappling industries, I got comfortable with that, and my matches started doing better as I got comfortable with just the area, the system, and then my jiu-jitsu could start being shown as everything else was set.
Yeah. Do you think you did better, or you do better now because less nerves? Your nerves are gone, or do you still have nerves?
Yeah. So the one before the last one that I did, that you were there at, I was feeling good for that one. The very last one though, I've talked about this one. I was just flat. I had no energy. I was shot. It was like all the energy was just gone out of my body.
Nerves, nothing?
No nerves, no adrenaline, just tired. And it was a rough
You
day.
can expect your nerves to be based on your preparation, bro.
Yeah.
100%. You can expect that. That's been the story of my life, competing since I was 12 years old, doing wrestling tournaments, all the way through to whatever most recent tournament I did. If I was prepared, I was less nervous, 100%. There's always nerves. You can't dodge the nerves, but nothing sucks more than going into the history class knowing you didn't study for the test, bro. Right. And you're like, this is a final? Dude, I'm screwed. I'm screwed. I didn't study, right? Same exact feeling going into a tournament and you didn't train like you should, and you trained like a hobbyist on your way up to doing this giant tournament, and you're like, dude, I'm screwed, right? You're going to be so much more nervous, so preparation's everything, dude.
I don't know, it was really different for me, like, because growing up, I don't know, I got in a lot of street fights, and I already had that aspect of physical altercations, like, under my belt. So, like, my first tournament, it was like, I don't know if I just looked at it as like, oh, it's just another rolling session. Like, I was not nervous at all. I had no emotions, and I got smoked all 3 rounds. And then the second one, dude, I was nervous as hell, dude, and my leg was shaking. I'm like, fuck, dude, right? And I won like 2 out of the 4 matches, just from being nervous, dude.
I like being a little.
Well, no, you didn't win because you were nervous, bro. I think you won different. Did you fight the same guys?
No,
there you go. Yeah. You fought different dudes. The first time you fought guys that could beat you.
It was a completely different weight class too, but
you went down, didn't you? Oh yeah, bro. Yeah.
I like a little bit of nerves because it amps you up a little bit. In the last one, I was just flat. Like, I didn't feel bad for the comp. I didn't feel good for the comp. It was just flat. It was weird. It was
indifferent.
It was so bad. It was so bad. Yeah.
Why was it though? Did you prep? Or did you feel like you didn't prepare enough? Probably could have prepared more. There's always the could have done more.
I could have done more. I could have done more.
I mean, if you know in your heart you maxed it out, dude, you don't get as nervous, bro. You just don't.
And how many times have you heard, oh, I've been drilling this one thing for the last 3 months, and that's what I got in the competition, just over and over and over. And I think that's really what it takes to win a competition match, is something that you're just amazing at, something that you've been drilling.
Well, no, for sure. You've got to be good at something, right? Home base, right? You got to have your home base, got to have your thing. But I think with tournaments, it's like, doing the tournament just to do it is different than being like, I'm going to be a regular competitor with the goal to get gold medals all the time. Because if that's the case, then obviously preparation is huge. That's still what's going to always apply. But tournament strategy is everything, dude. You got to understand, okay, what's the organization? Is it IBJJF? Is it a situation where I should be doing that double guard pull, come up for my advantage thing, and working the score, and because it's not just go fight. You're going to lose against a guy who's strategic. And maybe it's a guy who you would beat in a real fight, but he's going to out-advantage advantage you or something. So it depends on what your goal is. Are you just trying to compete to say like, yeah, I did some tournaments, man? Or are you like, no, dude, I want to go out there and win golds, like get really good at the tournament strategy. You know, pick an organization and try to focus on dominating that organization so that you can get good at the rules, because they have different rules. Some organizations allow reaps and others don't, and blah blah. So, you know,
That's a really good point, because maybe in my first tournament, like I was just doing it to do it. So again, maybe that's why the nerves weren't there, because I was just like, it's nothing. I'm just doing it to do it.
You weren't
it gets
tied
too
to
rough.
the result.
I'm just gonna tap out.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing. And then the second one, it was like, all right, my family was there.
I wanna
Everybody's
win.
watching me. I want to win. Yeah.
well, there you go. That's definitely what was the
So
difference.
that's a good point. I didn't even think of it from that angle.
Yeah.
And I usually just tell people who are going into their first competition, I'm just like, go for the experience. The result doesn't matter. Just go for the experience, see what it's like, because you're probably not going to do great in your first competition anyway. It's the first time there. It's the first time competing. It's the first time rules. Everything is brand new.
Yeah.
To shine on your first competition you're going to be an outlier.
You will, for sure.
And 50% of people lose their first match.
Where do you get these stats, bro? You come up with these percentage stats.
There's
I
two
want to see
people.
sources, bro.
There's two people.
But they're not, maybe they're both in their first match. This guy might be his third match in his first match, right? Oh, you talking about in their life? Like your first match ever of your life?
First match you get to.
Oh, in the tournament.
Yeah.
Round one, you mean of the tournament? 50% of people lose their first match. That is a provable stat on the spot, yeah.
And
I thought you meant like your first match ever.
No.
I was like...
And if it's, no. And if it's single elimination, I mean, so you got a 50-50 shot, right? So that's not a great odd.
That's not a great odd. Yeah, it's a coin flip, right?
Someone's got to lose, though.
Now, yeah, you're obviously, it's a weighted coin flip because somebody's better.
If you win 60,
hopefully you're better.
If you win 60% of the time, that's great.
I mean,
are you guys planning on competing anytime soon?
I don't have anything on the horizon, man. I know I'm going to go coach this weekend, and
September 23rd, there's a Grappling Industries in Sacramento.
I think I have somebody doing that one too.
We're going to be on that one.
That's Sacramento? Yeah, I got two guys that want to do the Sacramento.
Nobody's in my bracket. I'm still kind of fucked up with the collarbone, but yeah.
I'm trying to wait till early next year.
I have nothing that I could think of. Masters Worlds just happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would have been, if that was...
Santa Cruz, yeah.
Santa Cruz is coming up.
I think that's the one that just passed.
Well, there's the BJJ Tour in Santa Cruz that's on
coming.
the 9th.
Okay, that's that one.
That's this week, and we got a good squad going down there. Mm-hmm. Right? Brett's doing that one.
Nice.
Yeah, he's doing just no-gi.
He'll go dominate again.
We'll see, bro. He beat me up last night. We did some no-gi. I mean, no-gi and gi, very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gave me a whooping. And no-gi, that front headlock, bro, I tell you what. And here's an example.
The last comp he was in.
He's a guy who, as a blue belt, decided he was going to get dominant at front headlock like Darcy's and Anacondas.
That's
he decided that younger, right? Now, he never stopped. But what he did do was, like I described, you branch out to those positions that are very close.
Yeah.
So front headlock is very close to a crucifix, right? When you just hook it up.
Yeah.
You know,
and those are the two things he's known for.
Right? And then a crucifix is very close to a back take. Yeah. You know, so he's literally the ink blot. He chose a spot, and the ink blot just slowly spread as he kept the pen on the paper.
That's
right?
what I'm trying to do with that last.
And now he's so good at all those positions that it's like if he gets anywhere near one of them, I mean, personally, I'm screwed if he gets anywhere near one of them, man. I was even trying to game plan him. I was like, we did one round, he absolutely annihilated me. And I was like, all right, no front headlocks for you this round, bro. I went out there standing straight up, like, you would get in my neck. And he shot in. I was like, oh, damn. I forgot you could wrestle, too. Yeah. Damn, right?
It's funny, people that come from the gym and they train here, they spar with Brett. And it's funny because it's always, darts, right? Yeah, you got me in the darts. Or crucifix, right? Yep, crucifix. And the same thing with Jack. It's like armbar city, right? Yep, armbar city.
That's cool. That's good, though, that they all got different specialties, man. Because it just so happens they all teach, too, right? So you got 3 different guys with 3 different specialties and 3 different teachers. Yeah, so you get a little taste of all of them. Yep. That's good stuff, man. Jack hasn't been training. I think he hurt his neck. Right? Yeah. for his next sparring with somebody, but I think his brother. His brother got him in something. His brother's good too. Have you rolled with Charlie?
I haven't.
Charlie's good too. Both those brothers, man. He's taller, longer than Jack. Not as experienced. I think he's a purple belt. But man, on his way to becoming just a bigger, longer Jack.
Oh God, that sounds
Glad
terrifying.
these guys come to my team, man.
Yeah.
I get lucky, man.
That's
I don't get to raise all these guys from white belt into what they are, dude.
I've said that
lucky,
before.
bro.
Is like you're finishing school, you get like all the purple belts
Hey,
and stuff, and
you
it's
know,
like
as long as
refine these guys.
if they stick around, it ends up being that I'm finishing. But you know, some of them cut out too. You know, it's just another school. But I think we got good energy in our classes. I think people like the way we run the gym. The way I run the gym isn't. It's not like a business, dude. Like while it should be in a lot of ways, we're a month-to-month gym. You know, nobody signs a contract. The value, when I remember the day that I tried to get my gym evaluated to see what it was worth, right? What's my business that I'm worth? It's worth your mats, bro. That's what I found out. How much are your mats worth? That's the price of your business. I was like, what? Why? It's because I'm signing everybody up for month-to-month agreements. Nobody's locked in for a year. So everybody could quit tomorrow, right? So technically I'm not worth anything, but I don't care. I'd rather be worth nothing, right? And have everybody love the fact that I'm month to month, love the fact that they could even hit me up and say, dude, I lost my job, I can't train. And I'll just be like, no, you still train. Just start paying again whenever you work, right? It's like, this is the kind of gym we have. That's why people want to stay. You know, I'd like to say, you know, that they stay because our jiu-jitsu is the best, right? And our jiu-jitsu is very good. We're good at jiu-jitsu. I would not be self-deprecating in that category, right? But I think that there's other places with good jiu-jitsu too, but there's not other places with the exact same energy, the exact same way we run it, dude.
That's the value of the gym right there, right?
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah,
were to
exactly.
sell, you're no longer part of the picture, and that's where the value
The value
goes.
would leave with me, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
You're the value.
Exactly.
You know, you're quoting from the mats, but you're the value. You leave, and you open up another place, what do you think is going to happen?
The people will come.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
So
exactly.
the value is you. The value is, you know, what you've built, not the facility.
Yeah.
You know, if we're looking at like a franchise situation, the value is the franchise.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the head coach.
The character.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That would be the difference.
And so when we first started AKS and stuff, it was like, okay, well, people can get kickboxing, they can get jiu-jitsu anywhere. Where the difference is going to be is me. And,
You gotta make it.
And so that's where I really tried to excel is, try to provide, you know, the best equipment and everything possible. But man, if you're the head coach and the owner and you're everything, you gotta be everything. Because the reason that they're signing up is you.
For the most part,
Yeah.
yeah. And then once you get other teachers, they will also become
Yes. part of
poster
that.
boys for
Yep.
your gym, representatives. And I know for a fact, dude, I've got guys that the reason they signed up at my gym was because of Brett, all right? Because they took his class, and they've actually never even been to my Monday morning or Friday morning class.
We were just talking about that. Is a couple people had saw the podcast and they recognized Dylan.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And they were saying that they live here in Petaluma and they signed up here. And they've never rolled with you or sparred with you, but they've been to Brett's classes.
Right. Yeah, totally, bro.
It was
I've got
exactly
guys I've never met on my team.
yeah.
And I've got other guys that actually came from a different gym just to be with Jack.
Yeah.
Right? Just because Jack's an awesome teacher. You know, and it's like, again, it's the culture.
Yeah.
Right? And I started it, and I had this idea to make this the culture. But if Jack and Brett and you guys don't come along, like, that's what I've always said, man. Like, you know, I did my best, but like I needed all y'all. And if you guys didn't come along, Brett wouldn't have come along back in 2011. January 2011 is to start being like the right hand man. The gym would not exist. I swear that on my life. Like if Jack didn't come along when he did, you know, we would not be the same. We need all these pieces to the puzzle.
It's interesting when those pieces come together too. And it's not something that you really plan. It's just something that falls into place. And somebody that wants to share your passion and grow with you. That might be my kid. Well,
What is it?
It's,
Wanna let him in?
It's probably Rachel. We can end here. I think we got a good hour.
We'll save one topic for next. What you had one more, right?
We can get into it later. We'll cover it in the next one. Thanks for joining the Belts Off podcast. Check out that bicep slicer instructional. I also made a video on mace bells and how they're amazing for your jiu-jitsu conditioning, so check that out. These guys will be popping up